I'll be referring to this Orient dive watch as the rack. I didn't find much in the way of authorized dealers for the rack. I found Teddy Baldassar selling the rack for $375 and Long Island Watch selling it for $415, which is the same price that Orient charges if you buy the watch from them directly. I try to avoid watches on the gray market, but feeling that the white market price was so high that I was being taken advantage of, I grudgingly bought my rack on the gray market for $211. You can buy the rack from Amazon right now for $222. If you look closely at the Amazon listing, the rack is being sold by the gray market dealer Watch Savings. I purchased my rack from a third-party Walmart online seller. I neglected to save a record of who the seller was, but I do clearly remember the seller using a name that was written in a foreign language that appears to be East Asian in origin. Here's the receipt that my rack came with. As you can see, the name of the seller on the receipt is Watch Savings, the same third-party seller that Amazon is using in the listing I just showed you. However, my rack was shipped to me by Shop. The rack came with this instruction manual, yet with no warranty information. It's bad enough that I'm compelled by Orient's predatory pricing to buy the rack on the gray market. Now that I've resorted to the gray market, I found myself in a situation where the gray market seller, Shop, appears to be using Watch Savings as a straw man seller. Would I be able to get any issues that I were having with my rack remedied? Highly questionable. The way that both Orient and Shop are selling the rack reeks of shadiness. Before I get further into this review, let me say that a lot of men had a wig out when I told the truth about the Orient Kamasu in an earlier review, which is that it is a piece of crap. To deal with any emotional trauma that fragile men might experience during my review of the rack, Watch Lab has teamed up with Salam Psychiatric Services, nestled in the heart of beautiful West Brattleboro, Vermont, to give men who have been traumatized by a lifetime of being rejected by women a place to go for comfort and hardcore psychiatric medication. Let's go back to the Amazon sales page for the rack. Why do you think it is that the dial in the photo for the rack looks so cloudy? If you're thinking that the reason is bad photography, you'd be wrong. The rack's dial looks so cloudy because it's cloudy as fuck. It is so cloudy that you can't get a clear look at the dial background in indoor lighting. In this series of images, my mounted camera and the rack are in stationary positions. This image is of my mounted camera videotaping the rack. Here's the rack from the point of view of my mounted camera, which is positioned to block light from being reflected from the dial. Here's what the rack looks like from the left of my mounted camera at my eye level. Here's what the rack looks like from the right of my mounted camera at my eye level. The rack is more readable in outdoor light, yet the dial background still impairs readability. The rack's dial appears cloudy because the dial background that Orient chose is so reflective that it acts like a mirror. You can see your reflection pretty well with the rack's dial. Notice that Orient provides a poorly made fake close-up image of the rack on their website. Their camera person probably couldn't compensate for the overpowering sheen of the rack style as well. And earlier me would have gone on to do a full review of the rack as I did with the Orient Kamasu, despite my coming across some deal-breakingly serious problems with the Kamasu. The new me doesn't see the logic of continuing to review a watch that I firmly believe no one should buy. I also don't want to validate the rack in any way by giving it a full review. Perhaps Orient will come out with a matte variant of the watch someday. This model rack is, however, a reject, not worthy of further review. The irony of the rack is that, unlike the Kamasu, which was nothing more than a retrofit piece of junk, the rack has good watch DNA. It has an original design, really nice crown action, nice dial, and a nice handset. Orient even implemented its date correctly, which few companies at the sub $500 price point do. It's still, however, a challenge to read the date because the dial is so damn foggy. Aesthetically, I like the rack's aluminum bezel. There's nothing wrong with it. The fact that Orient chose to pair a very glossy dial with the rack's very matte bezel belies Orient's understanding of fundamental design principles. Orient has demonstrated to me with both the rack and the Kamasu that it doesn't give a shit about watchmaking. Orient is about cutting costs and relying on reputation and sycophantic watch reviewers to generate sales. There's no department at Orient that oversees its watch designs. If there were, they wouldn't make the massive fuck-up errors that they've made with the watches I've reviewed so far from them. Orient appears to have a new and sleazy sales approach, which is to gouge consumers who buy from them directly while throwing the rest of us to the gray market wolves. Even if Orient came out with a matte dial variant of the rack, it wouldn't be worth $415. The rack doesn't even come close to a $415 watch. You can buy a much nicer Seiko for this amount. And no, I don't have it in for Orient. I could care less whether the company succeeds or fails. A reviewer cannot give a foggy dial watch like the rack a pass and retain his or her dignity. The rack's foggy dial isn't remotely acceptable at $200. I doubt if it would be acceptable at any price. Please like, please subscribe. There are only 2 contestants in my last Poverty Watch Review free watch giveaway. Note that I closed the polls to my contest on November 6th, so if there were any late entries, I didn't include you. Syndicated Satellite narrowly guessed the closest country by 10 miles to take down the prize. Congratulations, Syndicated Satellite. May the satellites of Earth and the stars be with you forever. Could Syndicated Satellite please email me with his mailing address so that I can ship him his free watch? Thank you. It's really easy to win a contest when hardly anyone enters, so maybe next time consider entering the goddamn contest.